I'm excited actually for this topic, as I've been thinking about it for the last 9+ months, when we gear up for this sort of thing. It's actually become something that's, in my estimation, easily can be seen as one of the most pervasive and destructive elements to our society. Ooh. That was a hot take in less than 20 seconds. So anyway, I think you're gonna come to agree with me as we walk through this, but we're gonna need to do a bit of heavy lifting. So this is what I need from you. I need you to pair up. Yeah, we're gonna do a pair up, but I promise it's with a purpose. You can't be lazy and create groups of 4. You gotta have actual partners, okay? So you've gotta pair up, meet the person to the right or to your left. This is going to be your veritable learning partner now for the remainder of our time, at least for our 18 minutes together. Okay. All right, once you have your partner, you got to give them a high five. Make sure they know your name. I need to see high fives. Yes, yes. Love the energy in the room. Yes, okay. All right, next. You all are going to need something to write on and something to write with. Okay, let's do this. Listen up, because here we go. I want you to imagine that you're looking at a mirror. Now, of course, obviously, this mirror would typically show you, but we're gonna pretend that this is a magic mirror. This mirror is magic because it shows you your exact opposite. I want you to think about what are the characteristics, personality traits, quirks, or whatnot that your complete opposite would have. Yeah. So for instance, here on the screen, you're going to see a list of different categories or subjects through which someone would be your opposite. All right, now for the next 60 seconds, this is what I want you to do with your partner. You gotta choose fast and you gotta be specific. I want you to share with your partner what are 3 items that you think would make up someone that would be your opposite. And you have to be specific. So I don't want you to feel afraid of offending the person you're partnered up with. We're not allowed to get offended here. This is a place for learning, but we got to be truthful in order to do it. So for instance, if you hate people that like Lucky Charms, hey, it's your opportunity to share that. Clearly you can get a little bit more serious if it's a social issue or some opinion about whatever's going on in the world. All right, so now 60 seconds, choose 3 specific items that would comprise your complete opposite and share it with your partner. Your time starts now. Okay, that's time. All right, bring your attention forward, please. Okay, we're gonna move this to phase 2. Now that you've had a chance to envision someone that would be your opposite, I want you to think broadly about all of the people that you know. Okay, now that you're trying to lock into your brains all the people that you know, let's bring it in a little bit. Think now about all of your acquaintances and friends. Now let's bring it in even further and think about people that you hold as a very close friend to you. Notice I didn't say family, by the way. They're not always friends. You guys know what I'm talking about. So let's go with really close friends. How many of your really close friends comprise one of those 3 items or elements that you just described to your partner? Let's see a raise of hands. How many of you have at least one friend that has all 3 of those qualities? How many of you have at least one friend that only has 2 of those qualities? Okay, and how many of you have a friend that has at least 1 quality, right? Okay. Now the topic of this discussion, or at least where I'm trying to lead you, is to think about 2 specific things. What you view as being an opposition to you and how that fits with your friend network. Because we, for the next 15 some odd minutes, are going to talk about the subject of tribalism. Tribalism is a significant problem in our society. And we all have a lot of buzzwords that we hear when it comes to tribalism and quick ways that we hear it referenced, but we don't necessarily have a firm definition on what it is. And we can bring the house lights down here for just a moment. But when you think about this idea of tribalism, we have a variety of different places that we can look to understand it. You can look at it through the lens of neuroscience. We're not going to do that today. You can look at it through biology or anthropology. We're not going to do that today. We're going to talk about how it's defined in the social sciences and what that means to you in your everyday life. Now, when we try to apply this to the social sciences, Henri Tajfel is the name that stands out preeminent when we talk about this. He is someone who was born in 1919 in Poland. Now, being born in Poland, he was a Polish Jew, which means during World War II, he actually volunteered to be in the French army. All right, now during the war, he became a prisoner of war to the Nazis and was passed around to different prison camps throughout the war. When the war ended, miraculously he survived. But when the war ended and he finally made his way home, he found himself looking face to face with a serious problem. All of his immediate family had died in the war, all of them. And most of his friends had died as well. So this began the fuel behind his life's work in the social sciences, because he was really trying to figure out what are the different components that lead people towards the ridiculous nature of genocide. Okay, now, along the way, in 1979, Henri Tajfel is noted to have coined this phrase that you see here on the screen of social identity theory. Tajfel's kind of major claim is that we find and derive our purpose from the groups that we have membership in. That we derive purpose from the groups we have membership in. What's more is a few years earlier, in 1971, Tajfel also, with a number of other colleagues at Bristol University, they came up with something that's called the minimal group paradigm, which means they were trying to find out what are the different conditions in these groups that actually give you membership in them. Like, what does it take for you to feel like you're a part of a group? Are there a certain number of criteria that this group has to meet up to? Now, what do you think? What does it actually take? What's the minimal amount of stuff that a group needs to provide for you to feel like you're a part of it? What do you think? Call it out, seriously. Acceptance. What else did I hear? An invitation. Similar backgrounds. What else over here? Okay, all right, so look, I'm gonna give you an example. How many of you like Nike shoes? Scream it out. Anybody like Nike shoes? Tribe. Any of you have a favorite color of red? Tribe. Who here likes marshmallow peeps? Hey, tribe, gang, gang, that's me too. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what they found is that it doesn't take much or take anything at all, and it's completely arbitrary. Completely arbitrary. So now if you bring both of these elements together, we have a problem on our hands. Because the minute that we identify with a group, we are both blessed by and cursed by that affiliation. Now the blessing that we derive from that group, I think we can fit into a number of different categories. You see here, for instance, we've got some different examples of the emotional support that we receive from these groups that we have membership in, right? We love the participation in some of the different activities that they're doing. We might feel, protected by them. It's just a biological adaptation, for heaven's sakes. So yeah, you are blessed by the group that you have membership in. So let's try this out just for a second. Also with your learning partner for the next 30 seconds. I'm feeling benevolent, so you only get 30, okay? I want you to just quickly rattle off, if you had to place a name to the top 2 or 3 groups or tribes that you identify with, who would it be? Who are the top 2 or 3 groups or tribes that you find your identity with? Thinking about the benefits that you see here on the screen, and let's just go to that point. So try it out, 30 seconds, time starts now. Okay, that is time. Look, it's likely that you chose this group, or it's likely that these groups stand out to you because of these wonderful benefits that you experience. So a message about tribalism would be doing a tremendous amount of disservice to you to just overlook the blessings that you're receiving from your tribes. But my message to you is that while you are being blessed, you are also being equal parts cursed by your tribe. It's almost as if we have this underlying disease that's onset by the moment we affiliate with a tribe that, if left unchecked, can completely erode our mindset and perspectives. So, tends to derive from the problem of the fact that our tribes lead us to a sense of, or a problem with, homogeny. Now, homogeny is typically a term that we see right in biology, where we look at different plant species and show commonalities there. But when we think about homogeny with our tribes, look, we see so many similarities with those that are in our tribe, we almost get lulled to sleep by the problems they're creating for us. We have a problem of exposure, which means with our tribes, they level set a sense of acceptable behavior with us. And you and I well know that some of the tribes that we identify with, their level of accepted behavior might need to be checked a time or two. There's a level of conformity that peer perception from our tribe is actually a significant problem, not because they're down-talking things that you choose to do, but we care about what they think about us. So that largely guides the behavior that we exhibit towards other people. But the biggest byproduct of tribalism, which you've already heard a million times up to this point, is the natural proclivity towards us versus them. The minute that you have that membership card in your tribe, it immediately leads us towards two things. First off, our tribe is exclusive, so we just don't want anybody coming into our tribe. I mean, it's VIP, right? Number two, when we look at these other tribes, there is a level of superiority that comes into it. Our tribe is better than others, and that comes through two ways. Either because my tribe is just straight up dope, like we're superior, or my tribe is better because your tribe is the worst, so I bring yours down. The us versus them and the mindset that it brings is a massive problem in how we're connecting with others, in the silos that you're seeing in your organization, in whether or not you're willing to reach out to your neighbor next to you. It's one of the key reasons why you might have those arguments at Thanksgiving that you may have been trying to avoid. Maybe it explains the arguments that you get in with fellow family members about other subjects. The us versus them is a significant issue. So let's try to move forward with this. Now, this is what I want you to envision. I want you to envision that your tribe is like a garden. It's beautiful. It benefits you. You love the fruits, the vegetation, the flowers that grow are awesome. But what's the problem here with a garden? Can you just plant a garden and let it do its thing? No, we have to constantly work our garden. Now that's where I'm coming in with this. Like if you just let your tribe do its thing, it's going to become a significant problem with the weeds and such that grow in it. But we have to do work in that garden. And the work that we are going to do is a constant, or at least a consistent effort of tribal therapy. So the tools that you would use, the pruning shears, the shovel, the fertilizer that you put into your garden, that is all made up of empathy. Empathy is the great tool or measure by which we constantly check our tribalism. We constantly overcome this problem of exposure and conformity and the us versus them. So in order for the next three skills to make any sense to you, I need all of you to actually envision someone that you know, that you get along fairly well with, but you're not necessarily friends with. And maybe you're not friends with them because they have an opposing opinion to you. I need you to think of an actual person here. So just think for a second. Can you think of anyone in your life right now? You can envision their face, where you interact with them, and you say, yeah, they're an acquaintance, but I don't know, I don't really talk to them very much because they're kind of weird. And then you insert subject here. Okay, are you thinking about this or that person? There are three suggested ways that our tribal therapy, fueled by empathy, needs to be put in place in our interactions with them. First off, you need to come to grips with the idea that understanding this person in a conversation does not mean you have to accept what they think. Now, if you, for instance, had family problems and you were to go to see a therapist, I think this is probably one of the main things that a therapist may tell you, for instance, is that we create boundaries in our life, right? I think that we're not fast enough to realize that we should and have to create a mental boundary to give ourselves permission to engage with people that we disagree with. If I'm going to develop empathy, that's fueled by understanding. I have to know what it's like to walk through someone else's shoes, right? Well, in order to do that and to understand them, I've got to have an open-minded discussion with them. And so that first means I have to create permission for myself to have a boundary. I'm going to engage with you. I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to try to understand you. But in the back of my mind, I need to let myself believe that I don't necessarily have to accept what you say. I think that's a bit of safety that we provide for ourselves. to have some of those tough discussions. Look no further than what we saw from Daryl Davis yesterday. My man did not become a member of the Klan because he was talking to KKK members, right? This was not a Chappelle Show episode or anything like that. He engaged in those conversations and sought to understand, but didn't accept. And that's the same dynamic we have got to believe in order to manicure this tribalism. Number 2, this may seem contradictory to what I just said, but listen to the nuance of this because this is a big deal here. Are you willing to be persuaded by a conversation with the person that you see as your opposite? Okay, let me show you what I mean by persuaded, because there's, like I said, there's some levels to this. We'll pretend that this is you. Where are we? There we go. We'll pretend that this is you, and this red dot is your opinion on a really heated subject, whatever it may be. You feel strongly about this idea. So you engage in a conversation with someone who feels differently. Now, as this individual talks to you about their thoughts on the subject, let's say that they actually present you with a number of perspectives, some of which actually have some elements of truth. So those elements of truth are shown in these colored dots. Up to this point, because of our perspective of us versus them, we are not interested in allowing these points of truth to make it to our brain. We are perfectly happy with leaving those outside of our brain because we don't want it to undermine our perspective. If I actually believe what they have to say, that means I've got to completely change everything about the way I believe on this subject. That's not true. That's a false narrative. When I say, are you willing to be persuaded, what I'm trying to say is, even though we had this red dot opinion before, when we listen to the truths of other people, are we willing to allow it to just simply add to the complexity of our perspective? Can we start seeing life in percentages? Can we start seeing life in terms of the nuances of different takes of a subject? All right, let's take this even further. So there were researchers at Yale University in 2002 that underwent a study where they asked people to describe how something works. So for instance, they said, I want you to describe to me how a toilet works. Now people felt pretty confident and they're like, well, I poop in that thing every day. So I mean, I know how this thing works. We're good. And on a scale of 1 to 7, they graded themselves. I'm a 7, I know how a toilet works. Then, next part of the study, cool, if you think you're a 7, describe it to me. Interestingly enough, these participants found themselves lacking in their ability to describe how a friggin' toilet works. Then they were asked again, cool, after you've had a chance to describe how a toilet works, how would you grade yourself? From 1 to 7, how confident are you in your knowledge of how a toilet works? Clearly, their grading of themselves went down significantly. Now, let's fast forward to a separate study where the researchers took that same premise but had individuals describe hot topics within society today: abortion, tax reform, whatever it may be. Said on a scale of 1 to 7, can you describe this policy or principle and really help us understand all the ins and outs? Grade yourself and then describe it. So, similarly, big grade. I know this abortion thing inside and out. Cool, describe it. The laws, the public policy, all of the different mitigating factors, the medicine behind it. Let us know. Come to find out, lo and behold, these individuals had to grade themselves again, and they've had to admit that they didn't know everything about the darn subject. So I go back to the same premise. Are you willing to be persuaded? You don't know as much as you think you know about the subjects that you feel really strongly about. And other people that may feel opposite as you can give you information, heaven forbid, that might inform your opinion, give you a bit more nuance to it. Okay, last but not least, this effort of tribal therapy has to have some proactivity on our part, where we're not just embracing differences, we are proactively inviting differences. Now, I'm not asking you to go out and pick fights with other people. That's not what I'm saying. Hey, let's go argue about something. I am, however, saying that we should be a bit more detailed about the ratio of friends that we have in our tribe that agree with us or disagree with us. Who in your network of friends, or in your acquaintances, I should say, could you convert into a friend by just inviting and listening to what they have to say? Now, when I say listen, I actually mean something beyond just hey, how are you doing? I'm talking about proactive, active listening skills. Last year, I was teaching a public a public session of crucial conversations. And after day one, it was becoming increasingly clear that I had gotten really sick. I had a sore throat the whole day. I was coughing, constantly drinking tea. By the end of the day, I couldn't get a sentence out. I was talking like that. So I had to hurry up and find somebody to fulfill my session. So Jillian Morenz and Mark Carpenter, are you guys here? Yes. Like Superwoman and Superman, they came in, swooped in, and helped out. They flew in, next day, took over the sessions. It was magnificent. But that second day was really interesting for me because I couldn't say a word, and I brought my wife and my 2 kids with me on this trip. And I have toddlers. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it was amazing to me the difference it made in my life when I gave myself permission to just shut the heck up and listen. I mean, I get paid to talk all the time, right? But I didn't have anything to say. I couldn't say anything. So listening to my kids and listening to my wife and being out in public and not really saying anything, it was an it was a freeing experience, I should say. Not to mention the fact that I learned that I'm like a deeply flawed mime with my kids. I'm like, come here, no, okay, no. Right, I look like an idiot nonetheless. But along that process, I think for me, I learned the power of just listening. And for you, you've got to give yourself permission to just be quiet and listen to someone else's perspective. Be curious. Pretend that you're an anchor woman or man on 60 Minutes asking questions. Really dig into that issue. And don't ask them why they think the way that they do. Help try to dig into figuring out what have they experienced that's led to what they have. Okay. Now I'm definitely at my time. So I want to understand with a short story, very short story. Does anyone know who this is, by the way? This is C.P. Ellis on the right and Ann Atwater on the left. C.P. Ellis on the right, let me make sure I got this right here. He grew up in Durham, North Carolina in 1927. He was poor, tried to make ends meet. His family was extremely poor. And as he grew up, he married young at the age of 17, had 3 children. One of his children was blind and had a mental handicap, and so life was a struggle. It was a grind. He could not make ends meet. And in his struggle, in trying to figure out how to help his family, working 2 jobs, never sleeping, he says the following. He says, I worked my butt off and never seemed to break even. They say, abide by the law, go to church, do the right thing, live for the Lord, and everything's going to work out. He says, but it didn't work out. Quite frankly, my life got worse. So I began to get bitter, and I joined the Klan. So he became a member of the Ku Klux Klan in his local area. Now, as you fast forward in time, he talks about his experience in the Klan being amazing for him. So he joined this tribe. This tribe provided so much pride in participation and ownership and experience. He identified so strongly with it. This was his thing. Now, fast forward then to 1971. In 1971, in Durham, they were trying to figure out how to overcome so much of the racial tension and segregation there in the area, specifically with students in schools. So they had a 10-day kind of confab where everyone got together to discuss what's going on. CP found himself face-to-face for 10 days with Ann Atwater. Now, I don't have enough time to describe how fierce Ann Atwater was, but nonetheless, this 10-day experience of learning more about Ann, learning more about the African-American struggle, understanding more about the struggles that they had in terms of education, what he had experienced, forced him to have his own sense of tribal therapy. And he says in his own words, during those days, it became clear to me that she had same of the identical problems that I had, and that I'd suffered like she had. And what did I spend all my life fighting people like Ann for? If you go to the end of that 10 days with about 1,000 some odd people in front of him, C.P. Ellis tore up his membership card to the Ku Klux Klan, renounced his membership, and began a campaign for the rest of his life to not only help African Americans, but also convert those who had believed what he previously believed in white supremacy. So I end this with an appeal to all of you. What are you prepared to do about this? I can't think of a group of people more aptly fit to do something about tribalism in our society than you. And I don't mean that lightly. You understand something about behavioral science. You understand the nature of understanding, of talking, of asking questions, of digging in, of having healthy dialogue with other people. What are you prepared to do about it? Are you going to go about your life continuing to perpetuate crap on social media when you could try to understand? Are you going to be Captain or Mrs. Hot Take moving forward on social media when you could very well dig in? Is there someone right now that you're thinking of that you actually could go have a conversation with, try to understand them, and leave it at that? Not advocate for a darn thing beyond just understanding them. What are you prepared to do about this? Tribalism and tribal disease is eating us alive, and we have to be the ones to serve up the antidote to it. Thank you.